Alpha. This is Ryan Morfin, and today's show we have Clay Kroschel from Delta Black, the CEO, telling us a little bit about the drone space and why he's so excited about the future. So Clay, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So before we get into your company and about how drones are changing the world, maybe let's take a step back. Let's talk a little bit about your background. Who are you and how did you get to Delta Black?
It's a long road. So out of high school, joined the Marine Corps. The strategy was to be a Marine Corps aviator. So I wanted to be a Mustang officer. I wanted to enlist first, go through college, go to OCS, be a Marine Corps aviator, and then carry out the rest of the career. That kind of changed a little bit when we invaded Iraq in 2003. So went to boot camp, or in 2004. So I went to boot camp in 2003, about 4 or 5 months after high school. And back then it was about 8 months fresh from 9/11. So everyone was really motivated to get some payback. And the waiting list to go become a grunt in the Marine Corps was like 18 months. It was insane and hard to believe just to be a ground pounder. But long story short, they ended up offering me a position, 0231, which is a military intelligence specialist. And back then I didn't know what that was, and they didn't seem to really know either. So I was like, what's intel? And they're like, we don't know, but you get a top secret security clearance, and you get to do some secret squirrel stuff. And I was like, okay, well, when do I go to boot camp? And they're like, October, like 4 months from now. I was like, all right, well, that's the fastest ticket out of hometown. Let's do that. I don't feel like waiting 18 months. So went to boot camp, got to learn a lot of things, went to the East Coast, studied intelligence for about 7 months. And then very shortly after that, went to college and we got activated to go to Iraq. So 04, 05, OAF2. And my unit was 123 out of Houston, Texas. It was actually really cool because going as a Texas Marine, all our call signs were like headquarters Alamo and things of that nature. And we had Alpha and headquarters out of Houston. We had weapons out of Austin, and we had Charlie Company, later renamed Carlos Company in Brownsville, as well as Bravo out of Louisiana. And so we got to go, and being a reservist, everyone had their military MOSs, but it was interesting because reserves are pretty mature because they all have their civilian job set. Mm-hmm. So everyone really goes to combat with like 2 different tools in their bag. They have what the Marine Corps taught them, and then they have what they do in their regular life. And so if we didn't have someone that was efficient at something or proficient at something, we could pull someone who did it for a living outside the Marine Corps. And when we got to Iraq, Al-Anbar province, 04, we actually took over 2 battalions AOs, which is about the size from Dallas to Houston. Huge AO, and our whole job was to keep the lines of communication open. And
AO's area of operations?
Area of operations. Yep. AOR, area of responsibility. Keep the routes open because all of our log trains are logistic convoys. Resupply Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force even. They were getting hit with double-stacked IEDs, anti-tank mines. Every other day, we were losing people. And so our job was to come in and get that to stop happening. So that way we could keep the logistics going. And so it was a really good deployment. And then Fallujah happened a little later on, a few months later. And that was Fallujah, big deal. But we got to see the first people vote in Iraq, and that was cool.
It's very cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing the hands dipped in ink.
Yeah.
Maybe we should try that back home. I don't know. It might work.
Yeah, that might work a little bit better.
But no. So as you ended up your military career, what did you do after you left the military?
So my last year in the Marine Corps, I was in Key West, Florida, working for JADF South, which is Joint Interagency Task Force South. And we have the whole AO of the Southern Command, and we do multiple missions and operations down there. A lot of anti-drug ops and things of that nature. And when I got out, it was either A, go to OCS as planned, or B, go join this company that I got a card of called In Situ, which Boeing acquired for $400 million in 2008, flying Scan Eagles. And drones seemed to be the thing that was coming because in 04 and 05, we got to see them really come on station. I was the end user. I got to see Israeli drones such as Pioneer be replaced by Scan Eagle drones, or UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles that Boeing had. And the picture was better quality. And it started becoming a thing to where we didn't feel confident unless we had overwatch of the battle space, so that way the commander could make fast and accurate decisions, save Marines' lives, get the mission done better. And so UAVs became a very, very big deal. And so I chose, instead of going to kickstart the next chapter of the Marine Corps career to actually go become a dirty civilian contractor flying drones for Boeing and in situ, which I absolutely loved because I'm a pilot. I have my private pilot's license, a lot of aviators in there, a lot of C-130 guys from the Marine Corps, and we got to go back and support the mission directly on the ground, just not in uniform. So we were like right back with the people we just left and got out of the Marine Corps with, and went right back to Iraq and Afghanistan. And I was actually in Iraq, Afghanistan, Africa, multiple Navy ships, DDGs, LPDs, LHDs, you name it, we were on it. We were flying these UAVs off of them, land and sea. So it was a great time. Great new technology. When you got really good at the land side of flying the UAVs, you got to go to the ships. And ships were a little more dynamic because they had another axis whenever you capture these aircraft out of the sky with a capture device. And so the way drones were kind of shaping up back then is you used to have the drones that did the runway. Now you had runways were no more, and you had UAVs that were launched into the sky on a catapult, captured out of the sky with a retrieval system. And today, which is the future, which is where we're at today, it's all VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing. None of that exists. No equipment. It's just the aircraft on the flight deck doing the deal. And so in 2011, I got to be in charge of one of the sites, that DDG-80. It's a destroyer. There's two Roosevelts in the Navy. One is an aircraft carrier, and one is the Eleanor Roosevelt DDG-80. And we were on that ship for 8 months. In 2011, and we actually got to break the record, which was very cool. We were flying 16 to 18 hours a day. We landed at 02, and we were down for 3 hours, took off at 05, and we did that with a 4-man crew for the next 3 months, breaking the record, which was originally 1,300 flight hours to 2,011 flight hours at the end of that mission set. And at the time, me and the other 3 gentlemen that were working it were an amazing team, well-oiled, all subject matter experts, SMEs, if you will. We got to boost up the contract, but more importantly, we doubled almost 1,000 hours plus of on-target time for the U.S. military in that AOR. So it was a great mission, and we still hold it today. I thought as soon as we broke it, the next ship would come along and break our record, but it's now been held for 13, 14 years.
Yeah, that's a pretty aggressive pace, 3 hours downtime and staging all that flying.
Yeah.
But persistent stare is an important capability for the military of having eyes on the target. So after you left that role, what did you go do?
I became a subject matter expert with in situ and what we called an FST, which is where you did the ship site installs, the ship site surveys, land surveys, everything to where these sites are going to go to. If they were broken, we went to go fix them, and so on and so forth. So we were like the senior operators, subject matter experts, and field technicians, things of that nature. And after 6 years at in situ, we left and started our own company with a set of 6 SMEs, came with us. We all formed together and created Unmanned Ad Hoc Industries, UAI, which was headquartered out of Houston, Texas. And the strategy there was to support oil and gas, commercial operations, upstream, midstream, downstream, onshore, offshore, and bring them that data collection package that these UAVs were collecting. So that way you could keep men out of harm's way. And so whether we were doing pipelines or offshore oil rigs, we were bringing this, what we call now in today's world, digital twins, which are like point clouds, which is like a 3D representation of the real world digitized. So, and this goes into like maintenance of parts, and it goes all the way down their supply chains. But that was about 10 years too early to market, I think, because we were doing a whole lot more of educating than we were really making sales. And we were educating, BP, Exxon, Chevron, Shell, etc. And nowadays they're just starting to pick it up and really have in-house operations. And we were doing this in 2014. So we very quickly learned that we're probably not going to make a whole lot of money doing this for the next 10 years in Houston, Texas, with oil and gas. And we wanted to get...
Why was that? Were the oil and gas companies going to bring it in-house, or did they not put enough budget behind it to make it worthwhile?
It was literally too new to them. Too new. Like 2014, they had no idea that a drone or a UAV could even accomplish this. They didn't know that you could create 3D point clouds. They didn't know that you could find leaks and pipelines under the ground without even digging.
Right.
All this was like brand new. And then coming from a group of young SMEs to their board, everyone had to pass the sniff test, and you had to show a lot of white papers, and it was a whole lot of just getting over that old mentality of shovel and sand with actually using like intelligent data collection equipment with deliverables. And so very quickly pivoted back to defense, where we found the VBAT. As we were looking for a true UAV, and those are hard to find. A lot of people think they have one, but they don't. We broke a lot of CEOs' hearts that told us that they had one because we needed a bird. We were going to fly Scan Eagles, and
well, what do they have if they don't have a drone? What is the difference between what they thought they had and what is a drone?
Yeah, so it's a great question because a lot of people don't get that. But there's RC aircraft, there's RC airplanes with cameras in them. That's not a drone. That's not a UAV. Drone has a lot more going on than just that. There's GPSs, there's INSs happening, there's radios, there's double faults of failure, but more importantly, it's really the algorithms that let the airplane fly itself, the full autonomy stack, and that's the expensive part. And so whenever we're flying UAVs today, you're typically telling the aircraft what you want it to do, and it's going to fly itself to do it. So if I tell it to go over there, I'm not controlling it 100%. You can put it in full manual, but no one does. It's not. You can actually crash a lot of birds that way, so no one trains that way. But if I want the bird to go right or to a checkpoint or a waypoint, I simply tell it to go, and then it flies itself and does what I told it to do.
So you program the flight plan and then
full
it takes off.
Autonomy.
Full autonomy. Yep.
Not to be confused with full AI, because it's a totally different step.
Yeah, that's the next step. Yep.
So this is back in the full autonomy days. So we went beautiful aircraft, company to company to company, and it's like, hey, sorry, CEO, like this is an RC aircraft,
you hobbyist.
Get out of here. You've never took this beyond visual line of sight. You've never flown beyond 2 hours. Like, you've never seen the bird disappear from your line of sight. Like, you don't have a UAV. This is not mature. This is like way, way, way back.
Yeah.
Finally, we found, oddly enough, a Texas company called Martin UAV, who just acquired a company out of the West Coast called MLB, and they have this new UAV, a true UAV called the VBAT. And back then, Martin UAV was about 16 people, and we started working together. We signed a couple agreements to where they build them, we fly them. We teach you how to talk about the industry. We help you sell them. I'll help you write your proposals, et cetera, and the terminology, because you have a product, but it needs to be better. And then in 2019, we actually came on board with them. I was their 20th person, director of flight operations, and I knew all the guys that knew how to fly this and how to make this better. I was also wearing the PM hat, the director of flight ops hat, a marketing hat, a BD hat. I mean, it's a small startup.
Life of a startup, yep.
Yeah, you have 17 different hats, 7 of which you know of, and the other ones, they just seem to be stacked on. But it was a great team, great mentality, good product. It just needed to be matured a little bit. And we had all the SMEs that had over, like, I have 3,500 flight hours on the Scan Eagle. And all together, my guys, we had over like 30,000 flight hours over the past 12 years. And so we brought that to Martin UAV, and we grew the company to 110, 120 people. And we then sold to Shield AI for $230 million, I think, after they raised their round D. So it was an awesome growth period.
Great exit, yeah.
Yeah, and the VBAT's an amazing aircraft. And so it's still one of the industry leaders today.
Okay, so you get gobbled up by one of these big West Coast venture-backed firms, and now you're, subject matter expert walking into a VC-backed firm. Tell me a little bit about that journey and the role you took there.
It was good because I knew I hired about 40, 45 people into Shield AI, Martin UAV over the years. All the guys that I thought were subject matter experts from the past that could really carry a pack, knew what they were doing, cared about the mission. Guys you'd want to be on deployment with you, because ships get small, and if you're bunking with the guy and he's an asshole, then it makes a very 6-month, 7-month deployment very, very long and difficult even. And if things are difficult, it can cause crashes. And the last thing you want is a crash, because it's all about the mean time between failure when it comes to these assets flying. So not crashing is very good, and it's actually cheaper to pay people more than to lose aircraft. And so pay people more, good people, make sure everyone gets along on deployment, and hire good people. And that's kind of like the motto that we go by. So that's who we created in that atmosphere.
What does an entry-level contractor get to fly a drone for the military?
Back then, I got hired out of the Marine Corps at like $60,000.
What do you think it is today?
But when you went to like Iraq or Afghanistan, you got bonuses and a bonus structure. And I stayed gone for 16 months straight, right out of the box, because I was fresh out of the Marine Corps and I wanted to get debt free and get a house and get a truck and do all these things. I think my 2009 W-2 was like north of 270, but I was there 365.
Right.
You know, and there was bonuses built in, and you're doing 16 hours a day, and if the mission fails, it's on you. And so you're wearing that logo of that aircraft flying, and that's a big deal. So it sounds like a lot of money, but you're also in Iraq.
You're earning it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you're missing everyone's wedding, everyone's birthdays, all the funerals. Yeah, and you can't get those back. So
You're in the sandbox. Yep.
It's a trade study. But
so you guys integrated the business into Shield AI, and then what was your role at Shield AI before you left?
So at Shield AI, I was the director of the Western Hemisphere, so director of international business and development strategy. And so I had Canada, Central and South America. And so I would meet with the generals or the VPs, the admirals, and we would showcase the aircraft, and we would write the RFPs and the RFIs and responses and the proposals, and do the demonstrations all up and down the Western Hemisphere. And as I had other countries too, but as we got bigger, everyone got in their lanes and really started to tighten down on your lane. So like we had the same guy in Europe, we had another me in Asia, and that was the international team. And then the CONUS team or the USG team was made up of like 25 people that would focus just on the Navy, Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, CBP, etc.
Yep.
State. So yeah, it was a good team. Lots of BD folks, a lot of smart folks, a lot of great folks to work with.
So Shield AI represents something interesting in the market, though, that a lot of people don't know about. So you said the difference between a drone and an RC aircraft is full autonomy. What is the next step? You're talking about artificial intelligence and the drone.
Yeah, AI is being used everywhere right now. It's like slang terms just to like get funding and whatnot. But true AI, that of what Shield AI does, what Anduril does, etc. Those are the industry leaders in the United States. And it's all about competition against China, because China's trying to get there as well. And whoever wins thinks that's the dominating force of the world. It's the new nukes, is the AI. Not to put that in a bad light, but that's how they're all kind of viewing it. And so we must beat China in that realm. These companies, Shield AI and Anduril, they're all, and there's a few others, but they work day and night to make sure that that's the case. And they work very hard at it, and they spend a lot of money doing it. When you go from full autonomy to AI, basically the difference in layman's terms is decision making. The UAV can actually make a decision. The AI pilot makes the decision on if you want the UAV to go over there, it can go over there, it will go over there. That's the autonomy stack. But now you're more like giving it the mission target. The target is to do X, Y, and Z with a truck in that area, and then they're going to figure it out. The AI is going to figure out how they're going to do it. You don't have to tell them to move there, do this altitude. It's going to decide. So in my mind, the difference between autonomy is we're telling it what to do, and it will go do it the way that it best knows how. But AI, it actually decides on how it wants to accomplish that mission.
As we continue to go down that path, I think the next logical question is, kill chain. When will the drone with the AI be able to make the decision to engage kinetic target?
I think that's a question for State Department and Defense. That's all they're dealing with, all that. So even today, if we do a COCO, a company-owned, company-operated operation, or a GOCO, which is a government-owned, company-operated, say you're flying a Predator or whatever UAV, I'm still not allowed as a civilian. I'm not going to pull the trigger. You have to get a military officer to come do that.
Correct. Yeah.
So I would assume, based on that logic, that the AI is going to be something close to that. Like it will never have full targeting and execution authority.
I politely disagree. Not because I think we have the values in America that we don't want that to be the reality that we live in, but we have to compete with our adversaries, the Chinese.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think they have a compunction about letting that happen. And so I do think the future, very, very near future, is going to be one in which there are killer drones out there. We're going to have to figure out how to handle those.
Yeah, there's actually a good Netflix series called Killer Drones or Killer Robots that kind of goes into that. And it talks about Shield and other companies and AI and where it's at today. And it's actually very well done. Everyone should check it out. But I was answering from a U.S. standpoint.
Yes.
You bring up a good point that, Our adversaries probably will be much quicker to allow the UAV or the AI to pull the trigger.
You decide to leave Shield AI. Why did you leave one of the coolest, fastest growing companies in the country?
Yeah, awesome team, great company. Love what they're doing, and they're right here in the hometown. I got approached about another project, and like we talked about before, about this new aircraft. And of course, here we go again, another guy offering a new UAV, and I'm like, dude, you don't have a new it's probably not even a UAV. But after about 3 months of due diligence, come to find out it actually is pretty intriguing, and the numbers are pretty exciting. So I started a new group of founders, all subject matter experts. Now we're 21 years, 22 years in field. So we kind of know what we're talking about. We know the industry. We know what everyone's weaknesses are. We know what everyone's pros and cons are, and this bird just kind of triples everyone and destroys everything. A true market disruptor. To double check that, like our CTO is from DARPA on Delta Black, and he left DARPA because of this aircraft. And this aircraft it's about 4 or 5 years old in testing. We have a few prototypes flying in Amarillo right now. They're all electric, but we're going hybrid electric. So it'll be diesel plus battery. Which a lot of aircraft and cars are even going to right now. But all that combined gives us a flight time of and this is on the conservative side. So I asked Jeff, our CTO from DARPA, I was like, hey man, do you want to move to Texas for a new project? He was like, absolutely not, this and that. And I was like, come on, man, it's Texas. I'm like, as long as you can make it through August, you'll be okay. Because August, it gets pretty hot, unless you got a pool. So we all got to have pools in Texas. But we told Jeff, we alluded to the fact of which aircraft it might be. And then he got very excited and was like, you know what? I'm down. If this is the aircraft we're talking about, I've seen it over the past 2 or 3 years. I'm interested to move to Texas and become the CTO, if that's the aircraft. And so that kind of really opened my eyes. I was like, man, if a guy from DARPA who has 21 years of just UAV experience, because he was Lockheed, Karam, Boeing, and Situ, we all come from a lot of the same paths. For him to say that, I was like, it got me pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, he was the UAS lead at DARPA, right? He was one of the top
he was one of the leads, and he was helping write the ancillary package, which is the future of UAVs and defense for the United States. So the guy knows the market.
Yeah.
We know the market, but he really knows the market.
Okay, so what makes this drone so special, the one that you guys are working with?
So it's still in the Group 2, Group 3 class. But it can
explain what a Group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mean. What does that mean?
Yeah, so one is the small drones that you see taking pictures of the house.
The kids are flying them around the neighborhood.
And Group 2 goes up to 55 pounds, and then 3 above that, 1350 I think it is, and this bird's right at 330. So the reason we capped it at 330 is because I remember back in the day, no one was on the same page when it came to UAV lingo. I mean, it was insane. Now, at least the United States has their lingo, but NATO has a different lingo. So they're class 1, where we have Group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. NATO has NATO class 1, 2, 3. NATO class 1 stops at 330 pounds or 150 kilograms, which is 330 pounds. We have that NATO class 1, and this is where a lot of the tactical UAVs come into play. So, and the Group 3s are actually doing a lot of work now that are taking market share from Group 4 and 5, and we don't need a runway, we don't need the launcher and sky hooks or recovery equipment. You just need the bird that can take off VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing, so it takes off like a helicopter, flies like a plane, and that's where the market is.
So a Group 1 can cost you $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. A Group 3 should cost you about $1 million, $1.5 million. But a Group 5 is a few $100 million. Is that?
Well, yeah, I found out in February that one of the new leading Group 5s, which is the Sky Guardian, I've been looking a lot of the press releases that are out online. I mean, the aircraft's $230 million. I mean, I'm sure 160, 180 million of that is sensors. But that's an expensive aircraft. And so when our aircraft can fly for 28 hours, carry 100 pounds of usable payload, we can do 25, 30,000 feet. That aircraft can do 40 hours at 40,000 feet. At least that's what's marketed. If we can do 75% of what they can, why would you not buy 75 of ours for one of theirs?
Yeah.
Keep the program if you want, but at least trade in one aircraft for 100 of these other birds. Because everything that's going to happen in 2027, it's all about being attritable, and you got to have the masses. There's going to be swarms, Everyone's building on the mass concept, and there's going to be a lot of aircraft in the sky.
And so your bird's about 330 pounds. How much payload can it carry?
So in the VTOL, straight up and down like a helicopter, it can carry 65 pounds of usable payload. And in the E-STOL, which is, think like Harrier, kind of rolling 50 feet or 30 feet, extreme short takeoff and landing, it can carry almost double that. So call it 100. And that's big numbers. That means that this 330-pound aircraft is now a 33%er compared to the rest of the market, which typically has a 10%er or 20%er. We're now a 33%er.
And because of the design, like what type of endurance, like how much longer can it fly?
We have a mule bay module, which think about like a belly bay on the bottom of the aircraft. And depending on what your mission is, it can be the logistics. So mule is multi-utility logistics equipment. Bay module, and these are just plug and play, whatever the mission set is. It's a 2 foot by 4 foot by 18 inches bay. So it's very large for this aircraft's class and group. And so whether you're doing a resupply to the front lines, or you're gonna go shore to ship or ship to ship or ship to base or base to base, on blue, brown, green water operations, whatever you want. This thing has legs of like 1,600 nautical miles on SATCOM. So that's insane when it comes to this size of an aircraft. And whether you're delivering medical supplies or food or ammo or whatever, it can be anything you want. Intel, intelligence, data, what have you. Or if you're not going to use it as a delivery mechanism, then you can use that belly bay as additional fuel, and then you could probably see over 35 hours.
And how, what's the ceiling for flights?
So we're going to have the turbochargers, and right now we'll go up to 20,000, and then we'll walk it up to 25 and possibly 30, depending on, the bird's big enough. It has an 18-foot wingspan to handle that. And
so you can swap out engines to have specialty missions. Okay.
Yeah, and the thing that makes this aircraft really special is it's a channel wing. And channel wing technology came around like 1951. So it's about 80, 90 years old. It's not that new. It has been known. It's not like something that's brand new to market. They've flown, they tested it, they did all the things back in the day, but it didn't win any big, large military contracts because in 1951, everyone's getting ready for jets, and Korea and all the big jet contracts won. So F4 and so on. But now, when you have a use case of ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and it's all about hang time, the channel wing is amazing because it almost doubles your wing lift, and that's where we can get the efficiency of lift, we can get the efficiency of flight, endurance, and you still have quad rotors, right? So you have a diesel engine, and then you have electric rotors, and they can manipulate the wind in dirty winds, especially off the back of a ship, because they work independently.
Well, and I think one of the areas of concern for people like the FAA or civilians is that when these drones are flying, people are getting ice cream or Walmart deliveries in their backyard as of today. If one of those engines dies, that Group 1 drone is falling out of the sky. Talk about the additional safety capacity that you guys have in this design.
So one thing that's really, really exciting about this aircraft is that because it's a true hybrid electric, and we have about 30 pounds of batteries inside, say I lose my engine, I can still fly for an hour and 20 minutes. I can go best glide all the way down to the ground wherever I want to go land, and then land like I still have my engine because of my batteries, which is really cool. The competitors that we compete with right now, they have about a 12-minute hover time, and if they don't land in that 12 minutes, they have to crash land. Where if I don't land in my 12 minutes, I can simply go fly again, and the batteries recharge in 15 minutes, and I can do this all day till I run out of fuel. So I have 30 hours where I could keep trying to land if I have bad winds, or if you want to go wait out a storm. If you want to let the front pass and you want to go wait 3 hours in the storm, maybe because different wind levels have different turbulence. That's another option. Or you can keep trying to bring it in. But where the competitors kind of die, they don't land in 12 minutes, they crash. We don't land in 12 minutes. We go fly for 15, charge the batteries back up, and try again for 12. And you just rinse and repeat over and over.
So as we wrap up, there's a few really important questions I want to hit. So, Ukraine proved, I think, that drone warfare is here. What does drone warfare mean to you, and what should our listeners think about in the future?
Yeah, if anybody that has a YouTube channel is watching the FPVs going down in Ukraine, that's pretty scary because it's one-on-one, and if they crash near you, they're blowing up their bomb, their payload that they have, and These things are very agile and they're cheap. $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a pop. What is it? A $5,000 drone taking out a $5 million tank? I mean, the game has changed. Let's be honest. So I think that is here to stay. I think we've also talked in the past about how people are now coming out with quadcopter boxes where you can go break some sticks and make a quadcopter with this kit, and you can. I mean, that is pretty interesting stuff. So I think drone warfare is going to be focused on EMPs in the future. You're going to have a ton of swarms everywhere. There's going to have to be a way to take them out of the sky. Everyone's already working on GPS-denied environments and so on and so forth. But you're going to have to be able to shock them and get the swarm to fall. And so how are you going to do that? And that's the big question. And one of the things I like about the Raider 330 is that we can not only carry multiple of the small birds or loitering ammunition, we can go and actually deploy it out of the belly bay, the mother bay, the MBM, or we could have, there's technology out there now where we could actually use the belly bay, the MBM, as a mechanism to take those swarms out because of laser targeting and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of different ideas out there, such as jamming, lasers, just right tool, right job. But we do have the capacity to actually make it happen.
Yeah, directional energy and counter drone measures are going to be critical in the future vernacular. So, some kids send their kids in the summer to sports camps. My kids went to drone camp. What advice do you have for parents about how to teach their kids about drones? Because it's not yet in the public curriculum. It should be, because I do believe that this generation of kids coming up are going to have to live in a new environment.
I think that you can, if you want to grasp what a UAS is, a unmanned aerial system as a whole, not just the vehicle, because the UAS consists of the UAV, the GCS, which is the ground control station, the GDT, which is the directional antenna that controls, or an Omni. All these components create the system. And so if you go get a $100 or $200 or $500 or $1,000 UAV kit, all those little mechanisms are already in there, those little equipment pieces, and it already gets the mind where it needs to be for the big picture. Everything's just blown up in a way of thinking about it. And then, of course, add SATCOM to the future. But I do think it is important that the concepts are grasped.
Yeah, no doubt. So we always ask our guests the three kind of closing questions. So first one is, what keeps you up at night?
Man, what keeps me up at night is 2027. A lot of people don't even know that that's a real thing. And the ones that do know what I'm talking about. The other thing when it comes to 2027 is where people get their news sources from. It's insane how.
Well, what's going to happen in 2027? A lot of people don't know that.
There's a fight coming in Indo-PACOM, and a lot of people haven't even heard of it, but the whole world's gearing up for it. And if you don't know about it, then you need to pay attention, because it is going to affect you in one way or another, whether it's prices at home. We've never really been attacked at home, but 2027, things will get dicey. Especially with everything that's going on at the border and whatever cells are already here. And a lot of people don't think that's true. But there's a lot of facts and intel out there that prove otherwise. So
that 2027 is when we think the Chinese will have the ability to push our Navy out of the Pacific Rim with hypersonics capability.
Yeah, kind of like the first real shots fired, 2027.
Yeah, kinetic contact. And then why are you optimistic about the future?
In what way?
Are you optimistic about the future?
I know that I'm optimistic that America can get back on track. I'm optimistic that we still have the best defense force in the world. I'm optimistic that we're going to come out on top in 2027. And I'm very optimistic about this new company and this new technology and tool that we're going to bring the warfighter, because there's never been a perfect UAV yet. Like Scan Eagle was pretty close. Like they were the first ones to really come online, the first big oligarch. I think in their prime they were doing $750 million a year. But since then, now you have like these Band-Aid solutions with putting these quadcopter attachments on wings, and so people get. But I think now we've actually found the first true perfect next VTOL UAV, and it can't land everywhere. So all the small spots that it can't land would be great for like VBAT, because VBAT can land anywhere that its size. But this aircraft's going to be able to triple and quadruple everyone else's capabilities, and that's crazy to say.
Yeah, definitely the future is in focus at Delta Black. Clay, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit about your vision of the future, and honored to have you here, sir.
Yeah, thanks, man. All right, let me get you a coin.
Oh, fantastic. What is this?
Delta Black coin. So military challenge coin.
Ah.
You gotta do it like that. Right?
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
And so for the viewers that don't know about the challenge coin, basically it started with a way where if you there's a bunch of different stories of this, but if you come into a bar and you got your buddy who has a coin, everyone's supposed to have some challenge coin in their pocket, and you put the coin down in front of him. If he doesn't answer you with a coin, then you have to buy him a drink. He has to buy you a drink. If he does answer you with a coin, then you have to buy him a drink. And then there's another side to the story to where if his coin beats your coin, that's where it goes. But usually it's just the first side of the story. But a lot of times in the military and defense, we create these challenge coins for milestones and things that we're proud of. And as the company develops, in all companies, you'll start having multiple. You win a program, you make a coin. And then you also give that to your end users because it's like unifying on we're in this together and everyone has that memorabilia of the successful mission.
Fantastic.
So it's good motivation.
Well, thanks for the coin. Thanks for coming on. And we'll keep tabs on Delta Black, and future is in focus with Delta Black. Thanks so much, Clay.
Thanks for having me.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
Got it.
Thanks, man.
That wraps up our show today. Thank you for listening. Until next time, thank you.